This is WCM's Park Update, a weekly show covering the outdoor hospitality industry, hosted by Ben Quiggle and Mike Gast. During each episode, you'll hear from special guests and campground experts on topics that will help your park flourish. WCM's Park Update is a production of Woodall's Campground Magazine.
Hi, I'm Ben Quiggle, editor of Woodall's Campground Magazine, and my colleague, Mike Gast, is here, former Vice President of Communications at Campgrounds of America, and the newest Nebraska resident, probably, or close to it.
Do I get to claim that former VP title for the rest of my life now, or does it wear out?
I mean, we can come up with something else. So I can spitball some things.
Yeah, well, we probably want to come up with a new title.
Yeah, our guest today is David Basler, Vice President of Membership and Marketing for the National Association of RV Parks and Campgrounds. And I believe that's your title, right? Or you're Senior Vice President now, right?
I actually have a new title. I'm Chief Strategy Officer now.
There you go, Chief Strategy. But you've changed titles a number of times over the last year, right? Year and a half.
I've been the Senior Vice President of Membership and Marketing for the last year.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So, and you keep moving up, so that's great.
Moving on up.
Yeah, moving on up. So we just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that National ARVC's been doing, and just a little bit about the recent study you guys came out with. I guess, why don't you just tell us a little bit about the recent report you guys just released, and how that's going to impact park owners?
Sure. So what we launched last Monday, and we did a webinar on it, in case anyone who's watching this didn't have a chance to see it. It's posted on our website on arvc.org. So I'd encourage you to check that out. We did a deep dive into it, about 45 minutes, and then 15 minutes of questions. But what we launched last Monday was what I would refer to as half of what used to be the Trends and Insights report. The Trends and Insights report was getting to be such a lengthy research piece that this last year we decided to split it into two research pieces. One that we're now calling the Industry Outlook Report, that is focused more on the trends of the industry, and then the other half, which is more of a benchmarking report that we're working on right now. That's going to be it's actually in survey form right now. It's going to be launching in the next month or so. So we were able to take those two reports and make them much more readable by decreasing their size. So we're excited about that, and we also were able to add some more information to both.
I mean, it's unique. There's a lot of data out there in the industry now. I know Mike and I have talked quite a bit about data on the show, and but this is kind of a unique study because it kind of looks at things from the park owner's perspective, gives us a good look at what park owners are doing, the types of things they're seeing, the types of things they're doing at their parks, which is kind of really interesting. I don't think there's really anything too much like this out there right now. So it's kind of
I would agree.
It's kind of fascinating to look through. I guess when you're talking to park owners, when you're looking at the season ahead, when you look at this report, I guess what's the data telling you about what the park owners are kind of focused on as they're going into the camping season?
Yeah, for sure. You're right, Ben, that this report, what makes it unique is that it's focused on the campground owners, and it's looking at what they are most focused on for the past 12 months and the next 12 months. And what the data from this report is really focused on is improvements. That's what really, when you look at the key findings page, that's really what stood out to us was improvements remain strong year over year, with about 2/3 of respondents focused on improving infrastructure, things like roads, sewer, cable, electric, and about 50% improving amenities. And where we saw the biggest increase this year was in the addition of new amenities. In this year's report, the respondents said that they planned on adding amenities. That number increased by about 8%. So that's a pretty big jump year over year. The biggest amenity that remains at the top of the list of additions for the past 12 months and the next 12 months is Wi-Fi. We still, in this report, we still call it an amenity. I know a lot of parks are referring to Wi-Fi now as a utility, and I think that speaks to why we're seeing it at the top of the list of parks adding it, because it's such a requirement these days that parks have good Wi-Fi.
Did you have any data, David, on are there any parks out there that are still charging extra for Wi-Fi?
What we would have on that would be anecdotal. It's not part of this particular research. I know, of a handful that are doing it, but a majority of them are focused more on bringing campers in with that as a selling point.
And did you guys get into the quality of the Wi-Fi? Is it upgrades to what they have now? Is that where they're headed, or is it just adding the basics?
We don't go into the specifics, but the improvement piece, when we talk about infrastructure, Wi-Fi is included in that. So the parks that already have Wi-Fi and they're spending money on infrastructure, a lot of them are spending that money on improving their Wi-Fi. You'd be surprised, though, how many parks currently don't have Wi-Fi and are adding it as a amenity utility.
Yeah, that is kind of surprising. But I know some parks, I think, were holding out for Starlink, and Starlink's up and running now, and I've heard some pretty positive things about that system so far. So maybe that's encouraging some of these more remote parks to give it another go. So, I guess, have you noticed anything slowed down due to the economy? Are park owners still investing in their parks like they have been the last few years? Is there anything in that report that says that anything's slowing down because of any economic reasons?
The improvements piece is actually going up. I think that's where we're seeing a majority of profits going, is towards the improvement portion of the business. Where we've seen in the past a good amount of money going into expansion, we're seeing that decrease. It's staying steady over the last 12 months. The median was pretty steady in terms of the number of sites that were added, but where we're seeing a potential decrease in this year's report compared to last year's is the number of sites expected to expand over the next 12 months. Last year, about half of respondents said that they had some plan to expand, and this year that number was down to 28%. So there's a potential there for seeing decrease in the number of site expansions, but we're seeing the increase on the improvements piece. So I think the money is just simply going in that direction.
So in improvements, you mean adding patio sites or enhanced experiential things to the sites they already have for RVs, and also maybe adding deluxe tent sites, those types of expansions?
When I say expansions, yes, adding full hookups, adding different types of sites. When I say improvements, I'm talking the infrastructure and addition of amenities. And I think that's where the dollars are going right now in the economy that we're in.
How about the dollars coming in? Is that going to be reflected in higher rates? Is there any rate information in the study?
There's no rate information in the study. That would be anecdotal. information, but what we do have is profitability information. The survey focuses on a 24-month period, so the past 12 months, the upcoming 12 months. So 3/4 of respondents said that they were confident that their business was going to show a profit in 2023 in this 12-month period, which is up from 64% last year and 27% the year before that. So we're seeing an upward trajectory in terms of profitability confidence, which is good. And only a very small percentage, 4%, said this year that they were not confident. So I think the profitability piece is really strong. Where I think where that comes into your rate question is, again, anecdotally, I think we're seeing businesses riding the wave, as they say, and economists that I'm talking to are all saying ride that wave as long as you possibly can. From our data in our generational camping report that we put out annually, and if you look at KOA's North American camping and glamping reports, other industry research, there's no potential decrease this coming 12 months in decline in camping. It's the opposite. Campers are out there with the economy waning. Campers are looking for an economical way to go on vacation, and that's still camping, despite the price of gas or any increase in site rates. And I think parks are seeing a success with dynamic pricing. And again, until that wave starts to weaken, economists, I think, would say ride it as long as you possibly can.
So what was the field date? When was this study out in the field?
This study was out in the field in late 2022.
Okay, was that considered before the inflationary pressures we've had and the interest rate jumps? Any concern there that the data might be a little bit skewed by the fact that things were looking a little bit better last fall than they were in the last 6 months?
I mean, it could be. There's the inflationary stuff was just beginning to happen when the survey was out and was really getting going when the survey was closing. So I think we got the front end of it. Has it gotten worse? Yeah, it's gotten worse. So could the data have changed since then? It could, but I think it's still strong, and we'll continue to watch the data throughout this year, and the survey that's out right now will help us do that. So,
yeah, I think we've heard a lot about new developments, all those kinds of things. We've also heard about park owners taking on more parks. Is there anything in the report about park owners looking at investing in another park or building another location or anything like that?
Yeah, there is, but it wasn't huge growth. Last year, that number was 4%. This year, it was 5%. So there wasn't a huge amount that was of respondents who were looking to add another park to their portfolio. One interesting thing that we added to the survey this year was a question about were they looking to sell their park, and 14% said that they were looking to sell their park in the next 12 months, which I don't have year-over-year data because it was the first year that we asked that question, but just looking at it, I thought that number was pretty high.
Yeah, definitely. But what about on the corporate ownership side? Is there any data on, how many like corporate type owners or investment groups are involved in park ownership?
What we do in this particular survey is we ask the ownership type when the response is given. So we have a breakdown at the beginning of the survey based on to give the demographic of the respondents of the survey itself. It doesn't necessarily give an overall picture of the industry. But if I'm reading into your question, you're asking what the level of increase, if there is any, in terms of investment group corporate ownership. I think the simple answer there is yes. I mean, we're seeing that increase. More parks are selling, and I think with the prices that the market is demanding, the buyers tend to be investment groups and corporates.
So is that
I think
does that change the flavor a little bit of ARVC? Is that does that ownership switch make ARVC's appeal a little bit less to the corporate owners? Are they still joining ARVC?
Yeah, corporates are still joining. There are benefits across the board when it comes to ARVC membership that appeal to campgrounds of different sizes, and that's one of the things that has always been the appeal of ARVC membership. We don't cater to one particular demographic. We have benefits and do things to benefit small parks. We have benefits and do things to benefit medium and large parks, mega parks, corporate parks, independently owned parks. Doesn't really matter. And the campground landscape, if you will, is changing right alongside, I think, the camper landscape. Changes tend to make things more diverse, and I think that's what we're seeing here, really. When it comes to the investment groups and the corporates buying some of these parks, the camping population is, like we said earlier, is increasing, and with that is becoming more diverse. So to be successful, campgrounds have to follow suit or lead the way, hopefully. And I think a variety of campground ownership provides opportunity for campers to find the right fit for them and for their next adventure. So just like with the variety of membership that ARVC caters to, I think the more variety that we have in campground ownership, the better it is for the camping population too.
I know on the state association side that, I've talked with several executive directors who've mentioned, they're a little worried about the corporate entities that have come in and, maybe they're not as engaged with the state association, or the state association is having to find new ways to kind of engage with the corporate managers and different things. Is that something that ARVC is noticing? Are the corporate owned members as engaged with ARVC as, maybe the mom and pop shops in years past?
We're not seeing any decrease in engagement in any of our demographics, honestly.
Okay.
Small, medium, large, different ownerships, multi-park, single park. Campground owners are either engaged or they're not. And across the board, we're not seeing any lack of engagement just because a membership is a corporate membership. They're just engaged in different things.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the difference. A corporate park is going to be engaged in different things than a small independently owned park is going to be engaged in, because their needs are different.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, now would be a good time just to pause to recognize our sponsor, and we will be right back with David. Thanks. WCM's Park Update is being brought to you by Woodall's Campground Magazine. For over 5 decades, Woodall's Campground Magazine has aimed to provide park owners and operators with the relevant industry news they need to run their businesses more efficiently. As times have changed, so has Woodall's Campground Magazine. Besides just its print publication, which is distributed to more than 14,000 industry professionals every month, the magazine also reaches readers through its various social media platforms, including Facebook at WoodallCM, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Woodall's Campground Magazine also offers a daily e-blast which highlights the top news from the industry. The best part, everything we do is advertiser supported and free to our readers. As the outdoor hospitality industry continues to grow at a rapid pace, it is important to stay up to date on trends and other relevant news. Subscribe to Woodall's Campground Magazine at woodallscm.com. Hi, welcome back to WCM's Park Update, and we're talking with David Basler from the Association of RV Parks and Campgrounds. and we were just talking about their recent report that came out, the 2023 Outdoor Hospitality Industry Outlook Report, and you can access that report at arvic.org. It's arvc.org. And we were just talking a little bit about park owners. I guess what are some of the, I know you had a slide in there, staffing issues was like a barrier to a park's success. I was pretty surprised. 25% or more there said that no barriers were expected in 2023. So they're not worried about anything. But you had like funding, state and local ordinances, different things like that could impact park owners. I guess, are park owners expecting a pretty profitable year this year, I guess, despite everything that's going on?
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, the profitability was confidence was up almost 10% year over year. Yeah. And staffing issues were still pretty high when it comes to the barrier question. Almost a quarter, 23%, said that was their greatest anticipated barrier. So there are still some pretty big staffing issues, and we're going to dig deeper into those staffing issues in the survey that's out right now, the benchmarking survey. So we'll have more data on that the next time that the three of us meet. But you're right that about a quarter said that they didn't anticipate any barriers this year, which I think is a good sign. Obviously, that they're anticipating a solid year. So,
I mean, I thought that was pretty neat. I know everybody's been having staffing issues. I found the not enough acreage to expand. I think that was the third or fourth largest one on the list. That's kind of interesting because I know when I go around to shows and I talk to park owners about expansions, some of them do have land. Some of them are like trying to buy land. Some of them think they have land that they could purchase if they needed to expand. So it's kind of a mixed bag there. Some of them are just landlocked. There's just no way they can expand. So they look for other.
Yeah, and in this particular survey, that particular barrier may have played into their answers in the ability to, or in their plans to expand in the next 12 months too. If they're landlocked or if they just have that as a barrier for whatever reason. But you're right. There are a lot of parks out there who are sitting on a good amount of acreage. And with the profitability that we're seeing across the industry, parks like that are probably splitting their profits across the board, across their improvements and expansion. And that's where we see the fluctuation in the number of sites that are expected versus the number of sites that actually are built each year. That number always fluctuates. But the good news is in the time that I've been with ARVC, we've never had a year where we haven't gained a considerable number of sites over the course of a 12-month period.
Does that forecast also reflect, and this is probably not in the report, but I'll just ask it anyway, is that also going to reflect the new construction campgrounds?
Yes, it does. It does. Yep.
Okay. I noticed another surprising thing in the report was the expansion plans for the next 12 months were maybe decreasing, I guess. If there was like a 20% gap in the numbers between this report and the year prior, I guess that was kind of surprising because, when I talk to park owners, a lot of them are like adding a few sites here and there, or they're, really thinking about it. So I was kind of surprised to see it down that much, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the way to look at it is it could be down. It's a predictor. It's not a definite by any means. It's a predictor. Where we saw the increase on the improvements, we saw a decrease on the potential for expansion, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's going to end up happening by the end of the year.
Yeah, and it's good to note that I think you mentioned in the report too that there's like 17,000 sites were added in the last year, which is probably a little bit conservative. I think there may have even been more than that, which is which is great number for the industry as we try to catch up with all the RVs that have hit the road over the last few years. So, and just the high demand in camping. So, what do you think is, the point where, is there a point where we get too many sites? In your mind, do we ever get to where maybe we cross that threshold to where we've got too many?
Too many sites? I don't know that we can ever have too many sites. I think the thing to focus on is the diversity of sites. Yeah. Again, looking at the diversity of campers, not every camper is driving an RV into a campground these days. I think the important thing to look at when we talk about expansion is not only focusing on the full hookup site number, but also what type of glamping accommodations are being added, what type of cabins and park models and those types of things that accommodate the families and individuals who are out camping who don't own or don't want to rent an RV. There are a lot of those people out there. If you look at, again, our generational camping report or KOA's reports, there's a lot of people out there who are camping and who want to camp who don't own RVs. So it's, I don't know that it's the number of sites that we need to be focused on as much as the increasing the diversity.
Any that kind of speaks to my next question: is any fear out there in the campground world that they're going to add glamping facilities and take away RV sites? Is that happening out there at all?
If I'm understanding your question correctly, campgrounds who are removing full hookup sites to add glamping sites?
It's very easy to wheel in a nice glamping cabin and put it right on an RV site and plug it in, put the sewer down, and you're in business.
Yeah, I think when that happens, a lot of it comes down to the ability to make money on that particular site. If a campground has a full hookup site that's not making money, and they can bring in a park model that will make money, that's a no-brainer. And that happens all the time. Mm-hmm. But then you also have campgrounds who are, when they add sites, they're adding, let's say they're adding 10 sites, and sometimes half of them are full hookups and half of them are park models, because you can, with the rates that campers are willing to pay for glamping accommodations, the rate of return on a park model cabin or a glamping tent these days is pretty low. So you can make it your money back on those pretty quickly. So I know a lot of campgrounds are doing that. I don't know that there's enough data out there to show that we're losing a great number of full hookup sites to make that happen, though. I think I don't think we're there yet.
So talking about amenities, I get to ask my favorite question. Ben and I always find a way to ask this every time. What about the future for ERVs? Are campground owners starting to fixate on that a little bit and think about what they're going to do on the campground to accommodate what's seen as the potential influx of electric RVs?
We're seeing an increase for sure. It's still not huge numbers. The respondents of this survey, about a quarter, said that they were seeing an increase in ERV usage by campers. We saw a slight increase in the number of parks saying that they were going to be had plans to increase their EV charging opportunities for campers on their properties. In some cases, those were EV charging stations. In some cases, those were additional pedestals being added to a campsite. So there's definite growth there. It's not probably as fast as it should be happening based on the speed at which the EV market is growing, but I think it'll catch up once people start seeing more increases in campers rolling in with EVs. And I think it'll also start increasing more once the manufacturers start more heavy production of ERVs as well.
Yeah. And I think in your survey you mentioned 36% of parks that added amenities in the last year added Wi-Fi, and I think down in the list, because you have a chart, there's an EV charging stations 10%. So 10% of parks added some sort of EV charging station. So
yeah, and I think that was up from 5% the year before. So like I said, it's not huge numbers, not huge increases, but they are going up, which is, I think, good for the industry and good for the campers who are out there driving EVs.
And I noticed in the report too, you mentioned 14% report that they have plans to sell an existing park in the next year. Do you know if that's up or down from last year, or?
I don't, because that was the first year that we had asked the question.
Okay.
So don't have any year-over-year data on that one, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be kind of interesting to see how that changes over the next few years or so. I know a lot of the brokers I speak with are saying the market's still pretty good, but obviously we'll have to keep seeing what the interest rates and everything do. So that should be a good one to keep track of for down the road. So,
yep.
And then I noticed, I think when I've been going to these state association conferences and people are talking about dealing with local governments, and I know I've heard Jeff Sims from ARVC talk about this, just pointing out the economic impact of the industry. And I noticed in the report, you mentioned that RV parks and campgrounds have a $35.7 billion impact on the nation's economy, which is just huge. I mean, that's a huge number. I mean, it's just amazing. And I have to imagine that's grown over the last 2 to 3 years. So.
Yeah, that's BEA data that comes out every year, and that is it's a good number to know. But I think the more important, especially at the local level, the more important number is that a family of 4 spends $200 a day when camping, and that doesn't include the amount that is spent on their site at your campground. So, when you're in a situation where your local zoning board is saying, I'm not wanting you to expand because I don't see the value of your business to our community, you can do some pretty simple math based on your occupancy rate and the number of sites you have with that $200 a day and come up with a pretty big number of the impact that you have on that local economy. It's a pretty amazing number.
Is a portion of that being spent on the campground too?
No, the $200, and that number comes from our generational camping report. So we're asking specifically the campers themselves, how much do you spend when you camp in the local community? And so it's on things like gas and food and entertainment. It's not including whatever they spent on their site or lodging in the community. So you add that in as well.
So what do owners feel is the biggest cash increase potential on their campgrounds? Is it to take a low-producing RV site and dress it up and make it a patio site and be able to charge more? Is it to add an amenity? Is it to add a water feature? What's out there that they could actually make some more money on right now?
I think from a campgrounds perspective that has some money to spend and are looking to get some quick return, things like park models are a good return on investment. Like I said earlier, you can get the return back pretty quick. If they are looking for a lower spend, they don't have the money for a park model. I think the additional amenities that are revenue drivers, things like e-bike rentals are hot right now, that you can bring into your park and just like golf cart rentals, really easy to rent an e-bike to a family of 4 for additional revenue over the course of a season and make some pretty good ancillary revenue.
Yeah, definitely. I guess here we're probably going to wrap up. I guess, David, before you go, it sounds like this year is going to be another solid summer season. Do you expect the good times to keep rolling on for the next couple of years, or, is there going to be any?
I do. I do.
Yeah, it feels real positive
Yeah.
for the industry. So
I do. Despite the economy doing what it's doing, like we've seen in camping camper research, there's no downturn looking right now for campers. They're going camping regardless, which is good for our industry. So I don't see it being an immediate downturn by any means. And there's lots of great things on the horizon for the industry and for ARVC.
I know that was something that the outside media never quite understood back when I was working for KOA, was that there are a lot of existing RVs and RV campers out there using this investment that they've made. And it really is a lifestyle choice. And it's not something that's necessarily driven by even the price of gasoline or how many RVs the industry is manufacturing. If the manufacturing drops, it doesn't correspond to an immediate drop in camping. Yet these people are not going to be denied their lifestyle choice, and they made this investment in it. May change their patterns a little bit, and extremely high gas prices may drive them a little bit closer to home. But it really doesn't affect the overall nice camp very much.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
that's
and
right.
I think we heard that. I heard that at state association conferences too, where people were pointing out the RV industry, and they're kind of downward or swing at the moment. But as far as campers coming out, they've got their rigs and they're ready to use them. So, that's nothing to be really concerned about for the park owners at this point. So, all good stuff. So, well, David, I know I missed you at least one show. So maybe I'll see you around at some other shows, and I'll definitely see you this fall for ARVC's Outdoor Hospitality Conference and Expo in Kansas City. So that should be a good one.
We're planning that right now. Yeah, that's November 6th to the 9th in Kansas City. We're also getting ready for Advocacy Week in June. We're going to be on Capitol Hill in early June working on ADA website accessibility and the Death Tax Repeal Act that we're fighting for as well. So lots of good advocacy work that ARVC is working on at the national level.
Well, I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. I guess I'll come to Kansas City, but I don't know. So
I'm a Bengals fan, and I'm going to Kansas City. It does leave your fandom at home.
Maybe I'll get down there. I take one bad turn on the interstate, and I'm in Kansas City from Omaha.
Okay.
That's true. That's true.
But well, thanks for coming on the show, David, and
of course,
thanks everyone. Yeah, and thanks everyone for watching, and everyone have a great week.
Thank you for listening to WCM's Park Update, a production of Woodall's Campground Magazine. Join us for a new show each Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn for daily news and updates, and subscribe to our news feed on our website at woodallscm.com. Show hosts are Ben Quiggle and Mike Gast. Executive producers Rick Kessler and Alex Burkett. Copyright 2022, G&G Media Group.